Welcome to the BEASTwriter family, where social media engagement is encouraged. I am your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and today we are going to discuss a lot of topics. Many of you have been asking what has happened to the BEASTwriter. Why is he not on social media? Why is he not on Twitter? Why is he not on YouTube? And there's a lot of different factors for why I've been off the grid. It is on purpose. I have said, if you guys have followed me since the inception of the BEASTwriter family, that I would be funneling all the money that was made in the BEASTwriter family back into the BEASTwriter family. So here on YouTube, we are doing that. We are putting the money where our mouths are, and that's what we are doing. So we are going to be launching game film breakdowns. You guys have asked for it in my grading system. You said, what's going on with your game film breakdowns? Because I don't rely on PFF. So I have my own grading system, cross-check with coaches, cross-check with scouts. You guys know the business. So I went ahead and am working with a software engineering company, and we are going to provide that for you. And I went ahead and got a new laptop. Here it is. $5,000 is what we're putting into this. So a lot of big things that are coming here in the BEASTwriter family. But without further ado, I mean, we are doing big things here. And like I said, it's like, oh, cool story, bro. But it is, I'm really excited about what we have for the upcoming 2021 season. And I take my grades very seriously. If you follow me on Twitter, you would know that Jonathan Allen was a guy, ironically or coincidentally, was the last guy I graded before NFL Game Pass shut down and was preparing for the 2021 season. On Twitter, I was saying he was one of the risers in my defensive front seven players to watch in 2021, and now he just inked a 4-year, $72 million contract. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about that. We're going to break down middle linebacker Fred Warner as he reset the inside linebacker market. You guys know that I broke the news way back when, what was it, October of last year? And so I kind of continued that trend. We had a timeline of what was going on, current events. Obviously, Fred Warner's dad is a huge supporter here in the BEASTwriter family. Said I was basically spot on. And didn't basically say, he said I was spot on. And so now, if you guys follow the timeline, you would know that I said Fred Warner ultimately will be extended before the season began. And here we are today as he inked a 5-year, $95 million contract with $40.5 million in guaranteed money. So without further ado, let's go ahead and break it down. We're not going to waste any more time. Michael McCann says, it's about time. Mahalo, brother. Well, mahalo, Michael. I know you guys have been waiting. I've been getting so many DMs on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook as to when I'll be back, and I am here. He said, hey, BEASTwriter. Don Lovato from the BEASTwriter fan says, hey, BEASTwriter, happy Monday. Happy Monday to you too as well. Don Lovato also asked, where do you think Watson's going? I am going to touch base on that. Let's go ahead and break it down, as you guys love these tickers, and we'll get to your questions. And again, this is a Q&A live stream. So if you guys want to chime in, you're more than happy to do that on this Mahalo Monday. All right, so let's go ahead and get down to it. The breaking news is not breaking anymore, but breaking news here in the BEASTwriter family, I guess. Just joking. It's not. You guys knew about this from, like I said, back in September, October of last year. But Fred Warner inked a 5-year, $95 million contract. And the reason was, well, they needed to re-sign him. He was ending the last year of his contract. He was a 2018 third-round pick, drafted number 70 overall. So if you guys watched my timeline of current events on Fred Warner, you can catch that podcast playlist. In the description of the YouTube, you'll see a playlist. You can kind of catch up and everything in chronological order of what I've been saying all along. And you will know that Fred Warner was due for a front-loaded deal. I said he was already $34 million overdue. Well, how did I come up with that money? Well, if you watch my earlier podcast, you would know if you take the difference from his rookie deal, because he outplayed Bobby Wagner, who was basically the benchmark at that middle linebacker position, getting $18 million APY annual per year. And you subtract what Fred Warner was getting on a rookie deal, which is less than $1 million, that's $17 million times 2, because he outplayed Bobby Wagner in my grading system over the last 2 years. I said that's the baseline. That's the starting point for where Fred Warner should be getting that front-loaded money, coming in at $34 million overdue. What does he get? $40.5 million overdue. So you kind of see where that discrepancy, where those numbers lie. Makes perfect sense and financial sense for both sides. So that's why they went ahead and signed him. He's now inked through the 2026 season, and he is locked in as the heart and soul of the 49ers moving forward. So very happy for Fred Warner. I know his dad is happy, and everyone's a win. It's a win-win for everyone. Now, who loses on this? No one. No one loses on this deal. And again, I said the 2018 draft class is one of the most stacked draft classes, and they're going to reset the market from the inside linebacker position. And I say that because who did they draft? Well, if you notice on Twitter, who did I want the 49ers to draft just one pick earlier instead of getting Mike McGlinchey? Roquan Smith. In my grading system, Roquan Smith was rated as the best off-ball linebacker in coverage. No offense to Fred Warner, but Roquan Smith was definitely the better off-ball linebacker. And when it comes to run defense, right, as a run defender, Bobby Wagner gives the slightest of edge in my grading system over Fred Warner. However, when you take all that into account, you get Fred Warner, who is overall in my grading system the best middle linebacker. You see what happens is Bobby Wagner is good as a run defender, but he's a liability in pass coverage. Now you roll the dice the other way and you look at Roquan Smith. He's very good in pass coverage, but he does give up some as a run defender, not as much as Bobby Wagner gives up in pass coverage, but the subtle difference in that grading system and how I formulate my grades is where Fred Warner is true and above beyond the best middle linebacker in the game. Now, Roquan Smith will not be due a front-loaded deal until the end of this season because the Chicago Bears just picked up his fifth-year option, obviously, so he's playing as a first-round pick on that fifth-year option. Speaking of fifth-year options, right, moving on to Washington defensive tackle Jonathan Allen, who I just mentioned earlier in this podcast. Well, what happened was Jonathan Allen has now inked a 4-year, $72 million contract, $30 million in guaranteed money. Now, what does that mean? Well, he's a 2017 first-round pick, drafted number 17 overall. When you get a player like Jonathan Allen, who in my grading system, again, I've been off the grid, but I've been doing my game grades, keeping up to date to get ready for the 2021 season. I take this very seriously. I have year-end voting rights for PFWA. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on there. Now, with Jonathan Allen, what do you get? Well, he dominated Trent Williams in their Week 14 matchup. Just go and watch the film. Don't believe me? Turn on the film. And that's just one sample size to pull from. But if you follow every snap graded, Jonathan Allen is one of the most underrated, underappreciated defensive linemen in the game. And he has Pro Bowl potential. And there's a reason why he was inked this big money contract. Because again, Jonathan Allen, if he was to reset the market this offseason, because again, price is what you pay, value is what you get. In free agency, you're always going to have to overpay and compete with some competing teams who have the cap space if you want to retain your own players. This is not like the NBA where the bird rights are in play. There's no such thing as a Larry Bird rights, all right? So with that being said, the NFL is very, very hard pressed to re-sign your own players. They went ahead and did that with Jonathan Allen from Washington. Now, again, a lot of moves have to be made and in order to make that possible, because again, Brandon Scherff, you guys remember Brandon Scherff, he was tagged. What's going to happen with Brandon Scherff this upcoming offseason? In my grading system, he's rated as a top 5 offensive guard. So there's a lot of plays. There's a lot of things that can play out here when it comes to Brandon Scherff and the Washington football team. I don't know when they're getting a new name, but they are sooner rather than later, hopefully. All right. So through 15 games in my grading system, staying on Jonathan Allen, this is what I see fit. All right. He had 8.5 tackles for no gain. All right. 17 tackle wins in my grading system. He had 17 quarterback hits 17 quarterback pressures resulting in the loss of down, 10.5 quarterback hits resulting in the loss of down, 2 sacks, and 1 safety. So when you add that all together, you're going to get a Pro Bowl player in the years moving forward. I'm talking a million miles per hour because I love football. And again, this is what we do here in the BEASTwriter family. Brian King says, how's it going, Ryan? I'm doing great. Niners All Day 55 says, hi, Beast. I love the comments. Look at this. Drew Burrows from Facebook says, you are correct, Beast. Warner is here to stay faithful. Alex Faulkner, my man Alex, his thoughts on Ebicam. I love saying that name, Samson Ebicam. Samson Ebicam, to me, is not going to be a double-digit sack artist. I hate to say it, but I don't see that in his cards. If you look at what he did with the Los Angeles Rams, you never saw that production. Now, is he going to be a very good pass rusher? Absolutely. Now, is he going to be that Nick Bosa type? No, absolutely not. Is he even going to be a tier below that? Absolutely not. I think Samson Ebicam, a good number for him would be getting somewhere in the 6 to 8 sack range, which is really, really good when you take that into account. Kind of like what Kerry Hyder. Now, Kerry Hyder obviously led the team in sacks last year. I don't think he's going to do that as in Samson Ebicam, who is But with that being said, Samson Ebicam, I like the pick. I mean, I like the pickup, but I don't think he's going to be like a Pro Bowl player and a double-digit sack artist year in and year out. So that's what I would have to say about that. 49ers Minded says, what's up, BEASTwriter? What is going on? How are you doing? Facebook user says, Mahalo, BEASTwriter. See a lot of merchandise everywhere with the good vibes saying, and you always come to mind. Thank you so much. Yes, and we just launched our BEASTwriter family swag. Again, I told you guys that we're going to be funneling all the super chat money, all the money that we make on YouTube, all the donations that you guys have been sending us here in the BEASTwriter family. We donate back to you guys. So how do we do that? We come up with swag. We come out with software. We come up with a lot of different things. So I'm really excited. John Zach says, "Hola, Beast. What is going on? I see you." John Zach says, my hot take, Watson to the Eagles. Wow. Don Lovato says, my cold take, Watson to Denver. So there's a little difference of opinions there. All right, so let's go ahead and moving on along. All right, talking about the Arizona Cardinals. No surprise here in the BEASTwriter family on Twitter or on YouTube. I put it out there. Go ahead and check the YouTube and Twitter receipts. I said Chandler Jones is a guy that's going to be either a surprise cut or traded. Here we are today, and Chandler Jones has requested a trade. He's playing in the last year of his contract. The team would save $15.5 million in cap savings. This is basically echoing my own analysis that I stated months ago, even before they signed J.J. Watt. And now that they signed J.J. Watt, once they landed him, there's only so much money to go around. I put this on Twitter. I retweeted my stuff. And again, here we are sitting today, and it's old news. I mean, it's not news because I said it's going to happen. And here we are today. And now you can't keep everyone. So what's going to happen, right? I predicted this on Valentine's Day. Go ahead and check my YouTube receipts on that. So Chandler Jones, he's on the market. Could he potentially go back to the New England Patriots? I don't know. Could he? Kyle Van Noy did. Time will tell. Time will tell. All right, now let's go ahead and move on. We got the Green Bay Packers, right? News on Green Bay Packers. Cornerback Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be playing in 2021. People are saying, what the heck is that concessions meaning? I don't even know what that meaning is, guys. I have no idea. Basically, it's a reworked deal where Aaron Rodgers is in control of his own fate for the upcoming season after this year. So, could he be traded? Obviously, I think he has one foot out the door already, and that's just going to create a huge dilemma effect and drama in the Green Bay Packers locker room, because that's going to affect Devontae Adams and where he wants to play. Because does he want to play for Jordan Love? I don't think so. I think he wants a ring at this point. And so Aaron Rodgers gives him the best chance to get that ring. I think it's common sense with what's going on in Green Bay. But if Aaron Rodgers is no longer in Green Bay, what's going to happen there? I don't know, guys. I don't know. There's a lot of different things that can happen in Green Bay. There is a lot of issues there in Green Bay. And I'm just thankful that Green Bay fans... Well, not thankful. I'm sad for Green Bay fans. Michael McCann says, I'm hearing Washington Red Wolves is a name being kicked around by Washington football team. Washington Red Wolves. If you go back and if you look at historically college football teams, a lot of it has blue or red in their mascot name, like the Duke Blue Devils, right? This Texas Tech, was it Red Raiders, right? So again, you can kind of see, I think anything with red or blue in the name before the mascot name, I think you're doing yourself. I don't know. It just reminds me of college. I don't like the name Red Wolves, just like I don't like the Cleveland Guardians. I think that was a weird name. I know they wanted to keep the IANS, but the Guardians, I mean, what is a guardian? Is that like an angel? I don't know. Because to me, they had the feathers. So I was like, oh, no, man. Is that Thor? I have no idea what's going on. John Zach says, too many quarterbacks in Denver. Don Lovato says, yeah, lock to Houston. Alex Faulkner says, good seeing you do your thing, brother, man. Much love. John Zach. Gosh Jones owns San Francisco. Michael Mills says, any news on Trey Lance deal? I haven't heard anything in regards to Trey Lance. And that's all I have to report there. Michael McCann says, Jones back to New York. Yes, exactly. Don't be surprised if Chandler Jones goes back to the New England Patriots. Now, people are asking, right? Is Chandler Jones going to be a viable fit for the San Francisco 49ers? Well, one, you have to look at the alignment that they play, right? They play in a 4-3 alignment, right? They don't play in a 34 base like they do with the Arizona Cardinals. With that being said, Chandler Jones is going to be having his hand in the dirt in a 3-point stance as opposed to a 2-point stance. And that can make a huge difference in exactly where you're going to want to play Chandler Jones. Now, with that being said, the get-off can be different. The leveraging could be different. You're going to have to learn your techniques a little bit differently, especially with a new defensive coordinator. So there's a lot of moving parts here. Anytime you get Samson Ebukam and he's asked to be the pass rusher, and you also have Nick Bosa coming back from injury, and then you have Eric Armstead. Remember, Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw, I mean, that duo up front, they have to get it done. And I think Javon Kinlaw will, along with Eric Armstead, if Nick Bosa stays healthy. So with that being said, I don't think they're going to go after a Chandler Jones because, again, $15.5 million in money is a lot of bread. And especially when you have Nick Bosa, who's going to be in line for a contract year, I think Nick Bosa is going to look at it, hey, man, like, you guys don't need Chandler Jones. You guys have me. What's going on here? All right. Christopher Dupa says, I don't think a team will take a chance on Watson unless Houston lowers the asking price dramatically. Yeah, for those who don't know, let's get down to that as we move on. Deshaun Watson is on the trade block, guys. All right. Deshaun Watson is on the trade block, and people are questioning why he's on the trade block. He's a top 5 quarterback. All the reports are alleged reports that are coming out, or alleged incidents, or whatever you want to call it. It's crazy. It's crazy what's going on with Deshaun Watson and the legality of what he has to deal with. But with that being said, Houston is now open to trading him. All of a sudden, Houston's like, you know what? We're going to trade this guy. GM Nick Caserio, if you noticed in my earlier podcast, I said what? I said he's going to want more than draft picks. He's going to want starting caliber players. Why? Because you're going to leverage this trade how you see fit. If you just go after top draft picks, there's no guarantee those draft picks are going to turn out. If you run down the analytics on that, and you look at the team needs heading into the season from running back to wide receiver, I mean, I think since 2010, doing this off the top of my head, I think there's a 61% success rate on hitting a Pro Bowl talent in the first round. When you double down on those gains at wide receiver, I believe those gains since 2010, there's only been a 32% hit rate on getting Pro Bowl talent in the first. And that drops significantly in the second and third round on day 2 to about 15 to 16%. So with that being said, you really want to look at it from an analytical standpoint and say, you know what, I want to leverage this trade with starting caliber players, because if these draft picks that I get in return do not pan out, I need something in return to kind of save myself from the fan base, so they'll be calling for my head. All right. And that's where I see it playing out. And that's why GM Nick Caserio wants draft picks and starting caliber players. If I was GM Nick Caserio, I wouldn't just want starting caliber players. I would want Pro Bowl players, because in return, you're going to need that, right? You're seeing teams trending like the NBA, right? Where you need the big 3, right? You need some kind of talent, and all pro talent, Pro Bowl talent on both sides of the football. Depth is good, but at the end of the day, what makes the players great, right? It's these Pro Bowl players, all pro players who shine on the game's biggest stage. Lynn Swann, right, for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you see where I'm going with this. You're going to need Pro Bowl talent to kind of leverage this trade. Yeah, you can get starting caliber players, but like Randy Mueller said, you can have depth along both sides of the football, but it could be bad depth. And so that's where I see it playing out. All right, so here we go. Let's get to some of your questions. Again, if you guys want to chime in, please go ahead and do so. It's in the broadcast here, and I posted that. If not, you guys can just open up a new web browser and you can put it up there. All right. Just open up that new web browser and you'll be entered into the live stream. Brian King says, what's your take on this Richard Sherman issue? I myself think his career is done. I think Richard Sherman needs help. I know there's been some comments of the video that I posted. If you guys haven't seen that video, it's the latest video I posted. And it's Richard Sherman basically going AWOL. And it's sad to see that. It's very sad to see anyone, whether it's Richard Sherman or anyone, just on that level. And the comments, if you read the comments, is CTE involved? I don't know. I'm not gonna say which, if it is or isn't. I will say he needs help. And I think Richard Sherman admitted to it, that he does need help. And we all make mistakes. And yeah, it's just one of those things where I hope Richard Sherman can bounce back from this. Do I think he's going to be in the NFL? Well, let's put it this way. Training camp is here. And even before this incident, no team was really biting on Richard Sherman anyways. So when you get a guy who had, what do you have? Like a torn Achilles, he had some knee issues, right? So, and he's on the back end of his career. So exactly what are you getting in Richard Sherman? You're going to play him at free safety? I don't think that's going to be a smart play, because, again, you need to be physical to play the last line of defense. I talked about this with former GM Randy Mueller, 2000 GM of the year, right, with the New Orleans Saints. So, again, when you have to cover your deep thirds, right, moving from hash to the numbers or hash to the boundary, you're going to have to cover more ground. And I just don't think Richard Sherman has that get off, although he has the aptitude to kind of leverage his splits how he sees fit. Based on the scheme and based on the down and distance, he has to be in a scheme, right? Talk about scheme. He has to be in that cover 3 scheme where he's protected on the back end. If you're going to have him as a single high or man free, good luck. I would just run seam routes all the way down, forcing Richard Sherman to a decision to take on that tight end or that wide receiver. Again, it's going to be a tough sell for anyone who views Richard Sherman as a free safety, because I just don't think he is physical enough at the point of attack when being the last line of defense as being the sure tackler, and he doesn't have the range, most importantly, the range to cover the deep thirds, the deep halves, and even being the center fielder in a cover zero scheme. Michael Miller says, John Zach, I guess you never see my mock live on Grant's show. Okay. John Zach, no. All right. Robert Charay says, send Rodgers to Denver. That's what old quarterbacks go to die. Wow. Oh, man. John Zach says, just get Jones out of our division, please. Yeah. I mean, that he's in the NFC West. Let's get him out. Let's ship him to the AFC. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. Alex Faulkner says, thoughts on D Ford? I think he's damaged goods. I don't see much of D Ford. The injuries have started to pile up. When you look at D Ford and what he brings to the table, he's good when healthy. But again, the best availability is durability, right? And he's not durable. Roy's Plays says, from the BEASTwriter family, do you think it's possible that Jimmy G can be offered with 2 first rounds to get quarterback for Rodgers? This is something that I've been getting DMs on and receiving DMs on Twitter. I believe Rodgers would love to come home. What are your thoughts? I don't think 2 firsts is going to get it done for Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, if he has a career season and a bounce back season, using this as fuel for fire, as this is his last dance. You want to talk about the last dance? I'm not talking about the Chicago Bulls. I'm not talking about Green Bay Packers. I'm talking about this is Jimmy Garoppolo, one more year, last dance. If he goes and takes this team deep into the playoffs, yeah, then maybe 2 first-round draft picks. But then again, the sample size that you're pulling from, if you're a GM, you're looking at it as a 2-pronged thing, and you're looking at it. Yeah, he got a hot start when he came to San Francisco, and then he took them or guided them or helped them get to the Super Bowl, whatever term you want to use. They were in the Super Bowl in 2019 season. And then he had injuries again pile on. So again, and then he bounces back the following year. So you're kind of weighing the pros and cons on whether or not Jimmy Garoppolo is worth 2 first-round picks, because when you do that, you're saying to the organization that this guy is a franchise quarterback. Now, if one franchise is giving away a franchise quarterback, then is this guy really a franchise quarterback? Or are you just spinning your wheels to kind of save face because you need a quarterback, right? So that's where the discrepancy lies. If Jimmy Garoppolo takes the 49ers to the Super Bowl, he's out anyways. Again, this is one more year for Jimmy Garoppolo. This is Trey Lance's team. Make no mistake about it. I don't care what anyone says. This is Trey Lance's team moving forward, and it was his team the moment he got drafted. All right. Now, all you Jimmy Garoppolo fans can be like, oh, BEASTwriter, you're a hater. But I don't think anyone's saying that at this point. So with that being said, Jimmy Garoppolo, is he going to be given 2 first-round draft picks? Because at the end of the day, I think he's weak in the knees. I think he's going to get injured. Prove me wrong, Jimmy Garoppolo. Not throwing shade. But again, if you look at the analytics and you look at the past, in order to predict the future, you're not very healthy. You can't hold up. And again, I hope you do. I hope you hold up and I hope you play well. But we're looking at this in real time, making predictions and providing our analysis. I just don't see it. And as far as Aaron Rodgers coming back to the San Francisco 49ers, is this a Tom Brady effect? I don't think that's going to play out either. Because again, what are they going to give up? What first-round draft picks do the Niners have to give? They already gave up that draft capital in order to get Trey Lance. So if you bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers for another veteran sitting in front of Trey Lance, his maturation process, another year of sitting. I mean, at what point do you say, okay, so we drafted the guy to ride the pine? No, you draft the guy to play, to learn, to grow. And how is he going to build any type of rapport with George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, whoever his receiving threats are, if you're not on the field? All right. And then what happens if Aaron Rodgers comes to San Francisco, then they win a Super Bowl, and then he wants a new contract? Hey, man, we ended the quest for 6, and I want a new contract. Well, you're going to have a split fan base, right? Kind of like Steve Young, Joe Montana type of deal. Not on that level, because at least Steve Young played. But you guys get where the dilemma can ride. And that's why I don't see its financial or it doesn't make much sense to get Aaron Rodgers. I think you have to ride with Trey Lance and place your trust in him because you gave up all that draft capital in order to do so. All right. Let's see. Brandon Lewis from the BEASTwriter Found says, how many wide receivers do you see the 49ers keeping on the initial 53? That's a great question because when you have George Kittle, I'm going to say 5. I'm going to say they're going to keep 5 wide receivers. Now, that can change from now up until, obviously, preseason. I actually released my 53-man mock draft when it comes to the Steelers and the Niners because I covered the Steelers with Sports Illustrated and so forth. So my success rate since I started doing this back in 2012 is 93% on hitting these players. So 93% is not bad, right? So I'm now entering my 10th year covering the NFL, covering the 49ers, covering all 13 NFL teams. And yeah, I think right now it's going to be 5, but that can obviously change as it gets closer to the preseason, and I'll go ahead and release those players once that time arrives. John Zach said, last year's mock, why would I? All right, Michael McCann says, Houston couldn't have picked a worse time in the season to trade Deshaun Watson. He could have had the stars and the moon 4 months ago. Alex Faulkner says, Trent Williams going to live up to the expectations as a top 3 left tackle. I think he is. I think Trent Williams, I'm never going to bet against Trent Williams. He's a top 5 offensive tackle in the NFL. And yes, he had some lapses. Week 14, he had some struggles against the younger Jonathan Allen, who's very strong at the point of attack. Basically manhandled Trent Williams. And you don't see too many people manhandle Trent Williams. Usually he's the one manhandling people. But if you look back at the Week 14 matchup and you look at the coach's film, you will notice that Jonathan Allen held his own and more than held his own against Trent Williams, who was a first-team All-Pro. Montero Susan says, do you think that we are out on Watson? Yeah, I do. I mean, you have Jimmy Garoppolo there and you have Trey Lance. If you bring in Deshaun Watson, that's just going to create a huge mess. I don't think GM John Lynch wants. Don Lovato says, any new film on Lance practicing? No new film for me on Trey Lance practicing. Brandon Lewis, how solid is the 49ers depth on the O-line? Can this group weather the storm? I think this group can weather the storm simply because they play in a zone blocking scheme. Again, the zone blocking scheme is very different from the power run scheme where you're just not mano a mano, right? You can play on the shade and you dictate leverage how you see fit based on where the play is being ran. So if it's the outside zone run, you're not blocking a certain player, you're blocking a certain area. And that allows a running back to cut back and see the vision to see what hole he wants to hit. And it's a boom, boom type of a scheme. So again, the offensive line in general, just because of the scheme itself, the zone blocking scheme is very, very favorable for any offensive lineman who can play into that scheme. Now you have to be a little bit on the smaller side, a little bit more on the athletic side. But if you have the quick feet to get out in space and hit that second level with ease, I think that the offensive line will do just fine. And again, you guys know how I feel about Kyle Shanahan. I think he's a top 3 offensive mind in all of football, up there with Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, and so forth. So with that being said, Sean McVay, another one. So with that being said, I think that Kyle Shanahan is going to scheme these guys up. I think they will be just fine as long as they stay healthy. Because Alex Mack is older. Trent Williams, of course, is older. Lincoln Tomlinson, I think he was a 2014 first-round pick drafted by the Detroit Lions, if I'm mistaken. So he is I think he's entering his 30s pretty soon, right? Or if he's not in his 30s already. So you have some guys. And speaking of offensive linemen, shout out to Daniel Kilgore, my good friend, who just announced his retirement. You guys don't know who Daniel Kilgore is. He played for the San Francisco 49ers during the Harbaugh days, and he just announced his retirement. So speaking of offensive linemen, just want to give a shout out to my man, Daniel Kilgore. All right. Swan Song says, we just traded 3 1s and a third for Trey Lance. Jaeger 805 says, I don't understand Jimmy G fans. They seem like a cult. I don't know. Alex Faulkner said, what's Trey Man's ceiling this year? Well, I said it in earlier live streams, Alex. If you haven't checked those out, go ahead and do that. But I'll go ahead and rehash that in my analysis. I said Trey Sermon is probably going to go over 1,000 yards. I think he's going to ultimately be the focal point. I don't think that Jeff Wilson's going to be healthy for the duration of the season. I don't think Raheem Mostert's going to be healthy for the duration of the season. I think in the end, from weeks 13 to 17, you're going to see the bulk load of the carries from Trey Sermon. And Trey Sermon's going to be a dual threat coming out of the flat. Again, what I like about Trey Sermon's game is he's very hard to bring down on initial contact. So again, when you're out in open space, I don't care about his 40 time. I don't care if he ran, what was it, a 4.5 or 4.6. I don't care about that time, because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter from the running back position as long as you have the vision to see the hole and hit the hole, right? And if you can make tacklers miss at the point of attack, at the tackle, at the tackle point, then you're good to go, right? You can kind of gain extra yards that way after initial contact. So that's why I think Trey Sermon is, don't be surprised. I mean, I already have Najee Harris as the front runner for my offensive rookie of the year with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's my draft crush, but don't sleep on Trey Sermon. I like Trey Sermon a lot. I think they're going to rely on him a lot. I think Trey Sermon is going to be a beast approved. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and move on. Yeah, Trey Sermon's going to be a monster. All right. John Zach says, do you see the two offensive linemen from Mexico League and Canadian League making the team or practice squad? Probably the practice squad because the rules have allowed practice squad players to kind of be expanded. If anything, I think they make the practice squad. All right. Jaeger 805 says, I've never seen a fan base more excited for an injury-prone quarterback. All right. Brandy Lewis says, what position battle in training camp are you most excited about? Well, I mean, the position battles are pretty much set. I'm not really excited about a position battle in training camp. I mean, look at the offensive line. It's pretty much set. Well, interior guard, okay, one in the interior guard position, but they are still drafted in the second round, Aaron Banks. So I think that's his to lose. I mean, you don't draft a guy in the second round to ride the pine. You just don't do that. You don't do that. He's going to be playing along with Laken Tomlinson. So you have him and then Alex Mack and then the offensive tackles, right? So you have Trent Williams. Their offensive line is pretty much set, in my opinion. Then you look at quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo. It's his show to run. He's not going anywhere. Tight end George Kittle, not going anywhere. And then if you look at the camp battle behind that, that's not really a camp battle. I mean, you could just kind of plug and play. Just look at over the years what has happened, right? And so wide receiver. I think wide receiver. Now, if there is a camp battle, I think you look at wide receiver. Now you have Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel. But then you have some guys that are coming off of injuries, right? And then you also have guys that they brought in. So it goes back to, I think it was the year 2016, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was 2016 at Levi State, or was it 2014? Can't remember. When they had DeAndre White coming from Alabama, and he was just lighting it up in training camp. And I was like, dude, this guy's going to make the roster. DeAndre White. And I think he's still in the NFL today. I have to look it up. But DeAndre White was one of those guys where it's like, oh, are they going to keep him? Because they still have Kasim Osgood, and he's a special teams ace. And so what's going on? If you guys remember that season, he was released, then signed on, then released, and signed on during the course of the year. And Harbaugh played that game for a lot of different reasons. But yeah, I think wide receiver is going to be a camp battle to watch. I think that's one that I'm really focused on. The boundary cornerback position, that's Jason Verrett and Emmanuel Mosley. Secondary is pretty much set with Jaquaski Tart and Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward is a top 5 free safety in the NFL. I don't care what anyone says. I don't look at that interceptions number. I look at my grading system, and Jimmy Ward is one of the most underrated, underappreciated free safeties in the NFL, just like Jonathan Allen is at defensive tackle, along with Jeffrey Simmons from the Tennessee Titans, one of the most underrated, underappreciated guys in the league, in my opinion. So these guys should be household names, and they're not. Jesse Bates, another one from the Cincinnati Bengals, a free safety in my grading system, played at an all-pro level. So when you look at coverage, when you look at guys in the defensive front seven, guys like Roquan Smith, who made the second team all-pro, but not too many people know who Roquan Smith is. They all just turn to Darius Leonard. Well, if I was to take Darius Leonard over Roquan Smith, I would give me Roquan Smith over Darius Leonard. And again, this is why I have a grading system. And again, you guys should know that, the Chicago Bears, teams like the Indianapolis Colts, they have to make plays. Anthony Miller was just traded to the Houston Texans in the swap of late round picks. So a lot of stuff going on in the NFL circles. And here we are today. Jaeger 805 says, when we took Trey Lance number 3, it's clear that the Niners decided to move on. Yes. John Zach says, Mostert in the BEASTwriter Valley. Mostert in the contract year will call out, hopefully barring injury. Will ball out. Yeah, we'll have to see about that. Alex Faulkner says, do we see Jalen Hurd finally staying healthy? Well, I talked to a friend who met with Jalen Hurd, not going to name who, but obviously a source. I don't like using source. I'll say my BEASTwriter Family Network. And he had a conversation with Jalen Hurd, and Jalen Hurd told him, he's like, this is the healthiest I've been since Baylor. Since my college days at Baylor. And I was like, okay, cool. So what does that mean? And we just have to wait and see how that plays out. But it is good to point out that this is the healthiest he's been since Baylor. I don't know what that means. It means that he's healthy, but is he going to see the field? I don't know. Swan Song says, how about a cornerback battle between Emmanuel Mosley and Ambry? Ambry, the 3rd round pick. Well, again, if you watched my earlier podcast with former 49er scout AJ Highsmith, we talked about this. If you can play in the Pac-12, in the Big Ten, you're normally a boundary cornerback that can play at the next level, right? And Ambry's one, right? He obviously has the length, he has the speed to be a boundary quarterback, but I think it's Emmanuel Mosley's to lose. I really do. I think D'Amico Ryans is going to roll with the safer play, at least to start the season. And again, Emmanuel Mosley, to me, is one of the most underrated guys. I mean, yeah, he gets beat, but I mean, look, you can't put him on an island and expect him to not get beat. I mean, he's not a top tier quarterback, but is he a starting caliber quarterback? Yes. Look around the league and you can name at least 10 teams that he would be starting on, right? And so that's why I think Emmanuel Mosley doesn't get enough credit that he deserves. I like Emmanuel Mosley. I think it's his job to lose. Michael McCann says, any updates on Hurd and are the 49ers banking on a healthy season, or is there another threat to steal the number 3 wide receiver spot? That's a tough call. I just spoke about that with Jalen Hurd. I mean, I think they want to be healthy, but again, is he going to be healthy? I don't know. It's $1 million question. Jaeger 805 says, even if Jimmy starts, Trey Lance will see some situational football and will be on the field. Aaron A from Facebook says, hey, I'm glad we extended Fred Warner now that all the Jets talk is out. Yes, all the Jets talk is out. Monica says, hey, Ryan, I've missed you. I missed you too, Monica. Thank you for tuning in to the BEASTwriter family here on YouTube. Always good talking to my fam here in the BWF. Jaeger 805 says, Aaron Banks, McGlinchey, and Kittle on the right side. Jaeger says, seems like some lethal run blocking combo. John Zach says, Who's going to replace Tomlinson next year? That's a great question. Who's going to replace Laken Tomlinson next year? That's a great question. And if Aaron Banks can show versatility, he might move over to that side. We don't know. The real question is what's going to have to happen with right tackle Mike McGlinchey. I mean, is he going to have a good year, a bounce back year? I hope he does. But again, I don't know. I don't know if right tackle Mike McGlinchey can bounce back. I hope he does. I just don't know. Monica says, I have faith in Hurd. Yeah, everyone's asking about Hurd. Mosley is solid. Swan Song, yes. Brandy Lewis says, do you see the 49ers offering a live stream package for non-game specific training camp and training in camp anytime soon to make up for the lost revenue COVID? I would pay for that. I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, you never know. All right, let's get to some of your questions. Again, if you want to hop on the live stream, just go ahead and do so. We've been on for about 37 minutes now, and we talked about a lot of different subjects. Go ahead and leave your questions if you don't want to tune in live on the live stream or into the chat. Just go ahead and insert into the chat, and I'll be able to answer some of your questions. Jaeger 805 says, BEASTwriter, will you be at the preseason game and training camp? No, I won't. Well, we'll see. We'll see about that. I shouldn't say no because I probably could get credentials. Yeah, I'm not. I don't know about that one yet, but if I apply for it, I probably will get it. So yeah, if you guys follow me on Facebook, I put up my training camp. I don't know if you guys saw that. My training camp credentials and all that stuff. John Zach says, if Bank replaces Tomlinson, who will slide over to the right? Moore? Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. That's going to go. If Banks does replace Lincoln Tomlinson, who will slide over to the right? That's a great question. Again, we're forecasting for next year. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of free agents, a lot of surprise cuts can happen. So depending on where the state of the franchise is, that's going to ultimately determine what's going to happen because there can be a lot of restructuring coming up in players' contracts. They can target a certain player. We just don't know. Monica Beast, I live in Orange County, but want to watch all the games this year. And we get more Rams and Chargers. Here, what's the best way for me to watch all the games? NFL Game Pass? Probably, is it NFL Game Pass? That's a good question. I would say that's tough. NFL Game Pass, I just use that for coaches film. I get that being part of the Pro Football Writers Association, but I usually just use that to rewatch games and get the coaches film and see all 22 and see how the plays develop and so forth. But I guess on replay, you can watch NFL Game Pass on replay. Live, though, I think it's audio. I believe it's audio live. So you can get that audio, but then as far as the actual broadcasting of it, That's a tough question. I don't know the answer to that. If anyone has the answer to that, let Monica know, because I do not know the answer to that. Living in Orange County, I thought you would get more Niner games, but I guess not, because obviously the Rams and Chargers market is in LA. So even though there's more Niner fans in LA than Chargers and Rams combined. Now watch Rams fans be like, oh, you don't know, you're too young to know. No, actually, I am pretty old. I do remember the BLA signs that were given away at Candlestick with, what's his name, Jim Everett, right? You got Flipper Anderson. Kevin Green was on that squad. Yeah, so there were some players there. All right, Alex Faulkner says, buying or selling Javonte Williams and Michael Carter? I'm buying on those guys. That's a hard buy. I already predicted this earlier in my pre-draft analysis. I'm sticking to it. I don't waver back and forth. I don't ride that fence. Buying. Leo Melton from the Boston Red Sox. What is an update on Ford? No update to report. Talked about that earlier. Brandy Lewis, what are your thoughts on the NFL fines for violating COVID-19 protocols this year? I guess that the NFL has to protect its players. I mean, they're forcing players, they're forcing coaching staffs, they're forcing everyone to get vaccinated to kind of limit the spread. And I think it's a good thing. But in doing so, when you have to forfeit games because of an outbreak, I mean, what if you are vaccinated and you get COVID, and then you have to forfeit the game that way? I don't know. But games will be forfeited if there's an outbreak on a team, and and that's going to have a significant impact. That's why you see all these coaches getting released or fired or told, you're going to be on leave. I think the Patriots, didn't they do that with their offensive line coach or someone? And then Rick Dennison from the Minnesota Vikings was out, right, because of not getting his vaccination. So I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy world we live in today. John Zach, what will happen first? Bosa gets paid or Armstead gets cut? Well, you can't cut Armstead regardless. So Bosa is going to get paid before Armstead gets cut. Because again, there's too much dead money tied to Eric Armstead's contract for them to release him even after, or trade him even after this year or next year. There's too much dead money. So hate to say it, but it is what it is. You cannot get rid of Eric Armstead. He has tied too much money into the organization for them to just simply wipe their hands clean and move on. And no one's going to take that contract on for a marginal player. Now, with that being said, I say he's Daniel Stellfield 2.0. He could lead the league in sacks with Nick Bosa being healthy. So there's that. Monica Kenemis. Okay. I have no idea. I have Cox Cable. Maybe they have a sports package. Maybe I have a sports package. That's a tough sell. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too sure about, whether NFL Game Pass would give you that exclusive content, because I believe it's just audio only. We get some games, but I need them all. John Zach. Well, maybe, Monica, I will do a live stream. I can watch the game and you can just tune into the live stream, because people have asked me, and I can just do it here. Do live streams here. John Zach says, Sports live stream is the app I use, gets all the games. Okay, so there you go. John Zach says Dofu Sports is something that you guys can use. Trent Payne says Armstead is a bum. Watch him ball out of control. Now, Eric Armstead's going to go off for 17 sacks, and then he's going to lash out on Twitter and be like, BEASTwriter, you need to stick to your day job. Well, this is my day job. John Zach says we need a Bowser on our D-line. I think you meant to say Bosa on the D-line. Jerry, because I think John Zach said was it on Twitter that you said Bowser and you meant Bosa? So I think you meant Bosa. Jerry Yang says, welcome back, Beast. What's up, Jerry Yang? Hop on the live stream, bro. We need you in the live stream here in the BEASTwriter family to get up and running. Monica Kemis says, I'm all for that, Beast. Yeah. Brandy Lewis says, Katie Sowers is someone I look up to. I wish her the best. Yeah, Katie Sowers is great. Best of luck to her. She's no longer with the team. Best of luck to her. Leo Melton says, do you think Tony Jefferson has a role in this year's defense? I don't think so. I think it's Jacoski, Tart, and Jimmy Ward. Now, I know Tony Jefferson says, don't sleep on me, and who knows? I mean, he's a good situational player that you can kind of plug and play without any drop off in terms of reading stuff, right? Reading your keys, not being a liability in pass coverage, right? Knowing your assignment. He's good that way, but is he going to be an explosive type of player on the back end? I just don't see it. John Zach says, yeah, I did. See, Bowser, not Bowser, Bosa. I know. We should just call Nick Bosa Bowser because Bowser's a beast too, right? Bowser's a beast too. Brandy Lewis says, what do you make of Mike McDaniel? How will he leave his mark? Man, that's a good question. I guess time will tell. With Mike McDaniel. Any thoughts on the Last Dance with Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams last year with the Packers? I'll call in next time. Kids are jumping all over me right now. Any thoughts on the Last Dance? I think that the Green Bay Packers are in trouble. I think this is going to be a prolonged problem throughout the season, especially with the protocols, with COVID and everything. I mean, that alone is going to create some type of a dynamic shift. And when you have players like Davante Adams, like Aaron Rodgers, who are the face of the franchise, whose future is up in the air, players are going to look at this and be like, man, these guys been with the team since they were drafted, and they don't even want to be with the team anymore. So if I was a rookie coming in, I'd be like, man, so what am I getting myself into? Now, Green Bay is a historically, just like the Niners, just like the Pittsburgh Steelers, just like the Dallas Cowboys, the standard, right, in the NFL. But with that being said, times have changed, right? In terms of today, right? That's the past. But what's going on today? What have you done for me lately, right? WIIFYM, right? What's in it for me, right? So when you take that into account, you're going to have younger guys look at this and be like Rashawn Gary, right? Former first round pick, right? You have guys like Eric Stokes, right? I just did a Packers podcast, right? On the NFL draft grades as I cover all 13 NFL teams. And you're going to look at this and be like, all right. Amari Rodgers, right? Third round pick. Now you're going to look at this and be like, okay, well, if they won't want to be here, do I want to be here? Well, I'm on a rookie deal. I can't go anywhere. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on. Jermaine Pickett, what's up, Beast? Always appreciate the content. Why are people sleeping on Ahmad Brooks' Niner days? Who's sleeping on Ahmad Brooks? He was a second team All-Pro. Again, if you're comparing, I don't know why people say this. Oh, if you were to compare the 2012, or was it 2012 or 2013 49ers defense versus the 2019 defense, and people ask me, well, I saw on such and such, so what do you think? I'm like, dude, it's not even a question, dude. I mean, you had like what, 5 first or second team All-Pros on that defensive freaking starting rotation, right? You have, let's go down the list. You had Justin Smith, first team All-Pro, right? At both positions, defensive tackle, IDL, and defensive end. And then you have inside linebackers, Navarro Bowman, Patrick Willis, first or second team All-Pro. Then you have Ahmad Brooks and Aldon Smith, first or second team All-Pro. That's already 5. And then the back end, actually they had 8. They had Carlos Rodgers, right? Boundary cornerback. He was a first team All-Pro or second team All-Pro. And then you had Deshaun Goldson and Dante Whitner as the safety. So that's 8. 8 of your 11 defensive players are first or second team All-Pros. Give me that any day of the week. Find that in today's NFL. You find 8 first or second team All-Pros, and then maybe we can have a discussion about it. But no, that team on that defense was just too good. It was just too good. And even the guys who didn't make first team All-Pro, right? Isaac Sopoaga, the nose tackle, defensive end Ray McDonald, right? You had guys like Tremaine Brock, right, during that time, and Chris Culliver, right? So you had guys in place. And the team was pretty much stacked from top to bottom on the defense side of the football. Monica Canamiss says, did you already talk about Trey Lance not signing yet? I'm not worried, but I know some that are. Yeah, don't be worried about that. It's going to get done. I mean, the CBA is in place. It's going to get done. It's just probably the contractual. There's little minute details like, oh, well, the wording on here is messed up, so you got to change that. And they're like, okay, well, whatever. It's going to get done. I'm not too concerned. He's not going to hold out. So anyways, if there's a tagline that says, oh, Trey Lance is going to hold it, like, is Trey Lance going to hold out? It's like, oh my gosh. Not here in the, that's clickbait. I'm not going to do it. Monica Canamis, they do that often last minute. All right. Adam Sanchez says, Niners future looking like Cowboys past 20 years. Really? The Niners future look at the Cowboys the past 20 years. So you don't think they're going to be good? I think the last 20 years of the Dallas Cowboys is a huge mess. Not throwing shit at Dallas Cowboys. I mean, I love Dallas Cowboys fans. They're very passionate, very loyal. But at the end of the day, I think it's a very different team. A very different team. Because one, the Dallas Cowboys in the early 90s were established as a dynasty, right? They had guys like Leon Lett. They had guys like Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, Alvin Harper, right? Jay Novacek, right? Bjornsson, right? I believe that Bjornsson there. And then you look at the offensive line, Larry Allen, Mark Stepnowski, right? And you have guys who also was on that great wall of Dallas, man. That Dallas wall was just amazing. Who am I missing? Newton? Was Nate Newton on that team during that time? And yeah, that team was just legit. And you can't argue that. And then on the defense side of the football, obviously they had the strong safety in Darren Woodson patrolling the secondary. And then they also had Deion Sanders, which sucks. My favorite 49er of all time. I know he was there for 1 year, but he ended the quest for the quest for 5. And he also was the 1994 Defensive Player of the Year. Deion Sanders, one of my all-time favorite players anywhere, not just on the Niners. He was a baller. But yeah, I think it's a very different team in transition mode when you talk about where the Cowboys were as a dynasty and then how they kind of tapered off to where the Niners are. I think the Niners, they're sitting right there, but they weren't considered a dynasty anyways. And to compare the two and where they're trending, I can see your point. I think it's a very valid point because you're looking at 20 years down the line. But I mean, the Niners are still considered an NFC favorite to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. John Zach says, does everyone know the GM at Green Bay got sick and now it's management issue? Not coach or players, it's the GM. From what I understand, I could be wrong. All right. Brandy Lewis says, I project the 49ers and Browns in the Super Bowl. You heard it here first. Wow. The Browns and the Niners in the Super Bowl. Talk about a team, if you guys remember, didn't that pick, the Niners could have had Ray Lewis, if I'm not mistaken, because they traded that pick to the Cleveland Browns, and the Cleveland Browns then became the Baltimore Ravens. And in the first round, the Ravens drafted Ray Lewis. But no, that's crazy. That'd be crazy. The Cleveland Browns and the 49ers in the Super Bowl. I mean, you look at the offensive line and defensive line, games are won down in the trenches. You build teams from the inside out, not the outside in. And if you look at what the Cleveland Browns did, who did they get? Right? They got Jadeveon Clowney to pair with Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is a top 3 edge rusher in my grading system. I don't think he's number 1. I'm going to disagree with that. I think TJ Watt is number 1 as an edge rusher. But with that being said, you cannot discount or discredit Myles Garrett and what he brings to the table. Jadeveon Clowney is definitely going to take off the pressure off the other side. So no longer can you just focus solely and leverage your pass pro on one side wherever Myles Garrett is lined up, because they kind of move him around how they see fit and create matchup problems. So anytime you have Jadeveon Clowney there and Myles Garrett on the outside, that's crazy. And then obviously the Browns have arguably the best offensive line in all of football outside of the Colts. I think the Colts have the best offensive line in the game. I mean, with Quentin Nelson, best interior guard in all of football. You have Ryan Kelly, first round pick. And then you also have Braden Smith, if I'm not mistaken, Braden Smith as the right tackle. He was a second round pick. And then you also have, doing off the top of my head, Mark Glowinski. I believe Mark Glowinski was the right guard, if I'm not mistaken. And then you also have at left tackle, who they brought in because Anthony Costanzo retired. They brought in first round pick, drafted number 1 overall back in 2013, if I'm not mistaken, Eric Fisher. So again, I think the Colts and GM Chris Ballard have the best offensive line in the NFL. But again, you look at the Cleveland Browns, they have Joel Bitonio, top 3 guard in my grading system there. You have Jack Conklin, first team All-Pro in my grading system there. And there's a lot of good pieces in play there. So with that being said, yeah, you win games down in the trenches, and I can see that. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, can the Niners stay healthy? Right? The Browns also have a 2-headed monster with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is one of the most underrated, underappreciated guys in the NFL. He's a top 5 running back all day long. And I think he's better than Ezekiel Elliott, plain and simple. So Nick Chubb comes from a factory farm, comes from Georgia. You had guys like Herschel Walker, Garrison Hurst, DeAndre Swift is the latest, but he's not a monster. Kind of, with the Detroit Lions. But that being said, Nick Chubb's a beast. Nick Chubb's a beast, and so is Kareem Hunt. John Zach says Greenlaw is the new Ahmed Brooks, in my opinion. Absolutely. And John, if you saw my Twitter game, you would know that I saw Dre Greenlaw over the past weekend. He was getting Panda Express and Krispy Kreme donuts. I actually have footage of that and didn't post it. But I thought it was funny because I saw Dre Greenlaw. I was like, oh, man, I'm not going to say anything because I want to call him out like that and take footage. But no, it is funny to point out, because people are saying, do they really eat Panda Express and Krispy Kreme donuts? Yes. The answer is yes, right? So I don't care what he eats as long as he puts it on the field, right? Turn that into gains, Dre Greenlaw, and I think he's going to do well. I think Dre Greenlaw is going to be playing extremely high level this year. And they got to keep Dre Greenlaw because he's a beast. He's a beast. Frank the Boss says, welcome back, Beast. Welcome. Thank you, Frank the Boss. I appreciate it. JP, Edward De Dios says, hey, B-Dub. What's up, JP? And again, I spoke about your Arizona Cardinals, Chandler Jones. What did I tell you about Chandler Jones, man? Told you he was going to be on the trading block or released or whatever the case may be, man. Alex Faulkner, what is Javon Kinlaw's floor and ceiling this year? Well, as his biggest inspiration, if you guys missed it, Javon Kinlaw tweeted me that was his biggest inspiration. And he thinks about me every day and then deleted the tweet. But Javon Kinlaw is going to rack up 5 to 10 sacks this year. And now that sounds crazy, but I really do think he's going to shine out. I think the second year 2 is really where I want to see growth. And if you look at the tailor end of last year, you can kind of see him projected that way. Now you can run down the game film and you can Google search anything you want, and you will notice, there are plays that Javon Kinlaw flashes, right? But there's nothing that consistently jumps out at me. When I'm scouting players, there's nothing consistently about his game that jumps out at me. You see flashes, yes, you see glimpses here and there, but there's not enough consistency. That's why when I said Raekwon Davis was graded as a first-team Pro Bowler, well, not first-team Pro Bowler, as a Pro Bowler, best overall defensive tackle, IDL in my grading system. When you take guys like Justin Matabuki, right? You look at guys like Derek Brown and some of these other guys that went ahead of Raekwon Davis who went in the second round. And then you look at what Raekwon Davis is doing, switching from the 34 base defensive end position. Once Devon Gottschall went down to injury, then he had to slide into nose tackle. He played seamlessly at both positions, and he was the run stuffer. So I'm not taking into account pass rushing grade for a rookie, right? When it comes to those players, I just take out the run grade. And again, to me, Raekwon Davis was playing lights out. Javon Kinlaw is kind of not there yet. But again, 2021, different story. I think Javon Kinlaw is going to shine. I think it's going to shine. I think he's going to have 5 to 9 sacks. I think he's going to ball out of control. All right. Let's see. Do you think K's from the Facebook says, do you think we need a deep threat down the field, big name receiver? Well, anytime you have a receiver that can stretch the field between the 20s, you're going to want to go that route because it definitely helps out your players and your teammates down the seams. Guys like George Kittle, who are basically going to be covered in a 2x1 coverage or a 3x2 coverage, depending on which side he lines up. You can kind of leverage your splits how you see fit. And then that safety is going to dictate where he's going to go based on where Kittle lines up. So again, when you use terms like bracket coverage, when you use terms like a 3x2, right, we're having an extra defender on the back end to kind of double team George Kittle. So no matter what route he goes in, you're limiting yards after the catch. These are things when you have a deep threat on the outside, it kind of takes the pressure off because no longer can you be at 2 places at once. Sorry, but if you have that burner, like a Julio Jones, that would have stretched the field vertically. Now, do I think Julio Jones should have been the play? No, I do not. I think the team is already set at where they're at because it's just too much to gain, too much to lose, excuse me. The draft capital, a second and a 4 for Julio Jones when they already gave up 3 first-round draft picks for Trey Lance. You want to keep that draft capital in order to have salary cap health in the years moving forward. And when I talk about years moving forward, I'm not just talking about next year, right? Or this year. I'm talking about that 4-year rookie contract because, again, you're talking about that second-round pick on a 4-year contract, just like what happened to Fred Warner. If you don't have that leverage and you're just trying to plug and play players now and overpaying for these guys that really aren't going to be the deep threat or the focal point of the offense because, again, in Tennessee, Julio Jones will probably be the number 1 option outside of A.J. Brown, right? there's no question in San Francisco that George Kittle is the number one option, right? So now you're taking away reps and targets from George Kittle. Now, George Kittle would love Julio Jones. Don't get me wrong, because that'll make his life easier. But at the end of the day, I think when you look at the financials of it, yes, they do need a deep threat on the outside. Who is that going to be? I don't know. I have no idea because I don't see that player. Now, they got Jawan Jennings, right? Was it last year out of Tennessee or something like that, right? So is he a guy? I don't know. Brandon Ayuk is going to work the underneath. Deebo Samuel is your gadget player, right? So he'll be doing a lot of window shopping, pre-snap, end arounds, motions, all that. And Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, I think that's a good 1-2 punch, second and third option next to George Kittle. So whoever that deep threat is anyways, how many targets is he going to get throughout the season? And can you justify those number of targets based on the salary that you'd be giving that big deep threat burner on the outside? I just don't see it. Spencer Bailey says, Beast, hope that all is well. What's going on, Spencer? How are you doing? John Zach says, Clowney has to stay healthy. Yeah. Monica says, Beast, what have you been hearing about Mohamed Sanu? I haven't heard much. And again, I don't have high hopes for Mohamed Sanu. I just don't. John Zach, Taylor is my running back crush in fantasy. Taylor as in Jonathan Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts, I'm thinking. John Zach, they can eat that stuff when you burn that much in the gym and get those gains. Yes and no, because when you do that, you might be burning calories, but again, you're going to be spiking your insulin levels, right? So your blood pressure is going to be spiked, right? Because your insulin levels and your glycogen depletion. So if you're going to get those gains in, I would rather him eat oatmeal. It's a longer, complex carb. It's not a simple carb. It's not sugar. And it's going to prolong your workouts a lot better. I would say oatmeal with a little bit of brown sugar if you're getting ready for the game, because you do want to spike your insulin levels a little bit. But if you want to hit that anabolic window post-workout as well, you're not going to want donuts. And the reason I say that is because all calories are not created equal. Your macronutrients, your protein, fats, and carbohydrates are a lot different. So you can't just say calories in, calories out. You'll see this on Instagram in the Fitspiration. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you guys know I talk about this all the time. Been doing it for ever since I opened my Instagram account. And mostly you guys follow me there for my fitness gains. And now I just kind of converted into football this past year. But with that being said, I don't think that it's as simple as calories in, calories out. I don't think that you can just tell a person to eat. I mean, look at Tom Brady. Prime example, man. The guy's in great shape, and he's probably the oldest player in the NFL, and still winning Super Bowls. And what does he eat? Jean Paul Eber de Dios says, Isaiah Simmons eats a lot of sugar too. Yeah, nothing surprises me about the business. Yeah, it's really concerning. It is. Now, I don't care if you're George Kittle and you eat orange chicken. That's a difference maker. I don't care. If I'm coaching George Kittle, I talked about this earlier, I don't care what you eat, George Kittle. Shoot, you want a whole Panda Express store yourself and eat whatever you want. You're a first-team All-Pro. Now, people can look at this if I'm the coach and be like, oh, you're giving him the pass because he's an All-Pro. Be like, yeah, he is. He's an All-Pro, and he gets to eat whatever he wants because he is an All-Pro. If you want this treatment, become an All-Pro. If not, you're going to be on this regimen where nutrition plays a role, what you put in your body plays a role, your post-workout plays a role, and everything in between. That's why if you look at Jimmy Ward, my boy, on Instagram, he posts his food pics. What is he normally eating? Come on, guys. Talk to me. He's eating a good protein, lean protein, some type of vegetable, and either sweet potatoes, right? And that is a staple in his diet. You'll notice he posts it. Why? And Jimmy Ward, again, top 5 safety in the NFL. So there's that. John Zach says, can Bosa help Kinlaw with pass rush moves other than the one Kinlaw has, which is a bull rush? Yes, he can. And I think that Nick Bosa is going to prove wonders for Javon Kinlaw's retirement growth. But with that being said, I think ultimately it's going to come down to Eric Armstead because they basically play the same positions. I think Eric Armstead has to want to take Javon Kinlaw under his wing and say, you know what, just like DeForest Buckner took Armstead under his wing the year before that, right? And be like, okay, let's look at the game film. This is some things that we need to work on. This is some things I can see in your game. We're going up against this guy on this play. Look at the down and distance. Okay, that's 3rd and 3. Look how he lines up. Is there any kind of poker tells we can see from that? okay, now look at this wide receiver coming across motion. Let's go back and look at week 3 instead of week 7. Do they do the same thing? And where's that play being dictated? So now film study becomes a big role in this, right? So that's where I see a lot of these guys come into play. Look at Jonathan Allen. He understands film study. Go watch him. Go watch him. He knows where the bubble screens are coming before they happen. He kind of knows the game before and the plays before they happen. Jonathan Allen from Washington, I'm telling you, guy's a beast. Guy's a beast. Just like Jeffrey Simmons from the Tennessee Titans. Jeffrey Simmons is going to be an all-pro possibly this year. Just going to say that. Jeffrey Simmons, Jonathan Allen, definitely going to be a Pro Bowler for sure. CJ Ruthless Sports says, hey, BEASTwriter, what's going on, CG? How are you doing, man? John Zach, always good talking to you, CJ Ruthless Sports. Hop on the show if you want to talk 49er football. I love to talk football with any of you guys. And again, just open this up in a new web browser and you'll be able to time in the chat. Or this is a live call-in stream in the broadcast. You guys can go ahead and do that. John Zach says, yeah, Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts. If you go back on my Twitter receipts, I say he's going to be a beast. Here's some food for thought. I was working at Villa Sport and getting my gains in. I remember this. I'm not going to tell the personal trainer who, but he thinks he knows football more than me. Okay, cool, whatever. We can have varying opinions. And I told him, I was like, this running back draft class is pretty good. And he's like, nah, this draft class is weak. I did I'm doing a lot of research and they're saying it's crap. I said, you know what? Like, okay, well, how is it crap? Like Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a beast coming out of LSU. Jonathan Taylor is a beast, right? You have guys like Cam Akers in Florida State. He's a beast. These guys are going to be really good players. No, they're not that good. They're not that good. And I'm like, okay, watch. Jonathan Taylor coming out of Wisconsin. I was like, this guy gets it, right? This guy gets it. You look at the interview process. This guy gets it, right? And here we are today. Look at who is doing well. All those running backs drafted high. And so that's why I think that the running back position is one of those positions where I think it's a catch-22, right? I talked about it with Steve Weiss, right? I was like, are you surprised, right? Here on the BEASTwriter family, Steve Weiss, my man Steve Weiss hopped on the show and I asked him, I was like, in the second round, are you surprised that the Atlanta Falcons didn't go after a running back in the second and third round? Like a guy like Michael Carter, like a guy like Javonte Williams, instead of sliding back, right? And sliding down. And getting a guy like Jalen Mayfield or in the second round, right? Sliding down, getting strong safety or free safety guy like Richie Grant. And he said, yeah, I'm surprised because look at today's day and age. You need that home run hitter, right? This is why I have these guests on the show. You can go back and watch it after this podcast to catch up. And that's why I haven't been on. So you guys can 3 weeks. You guys can play catch up, right? Because there's a lot of information that's out there, a lot of free information that's out there. And again, if you connect the dots and listen to what I have to say, and then it confirms what other people have to say, don't take my word for it. These are the guys at the top of the game, and they're saying and echoing the same thing. Dalvin Cook, boom, home run hitter, right? So it's like Najee Harris. Why don't they go after a guy like Najee Harris, right? So I don't know. Najee Harris is going to be a beast. Offensive Rookie of the Year for the Pittsburgh Steelers, drafted in the first round. I had him mocked there. Najee Harris, if fingers crossed, if he stays healthy, obviously, all things created equal, he's going to be Offensive Rookie of the Year. Because don't sleep on my man, Kevin Dotson, the second-year man out of the Raging Cajun, fourth-round pick who slid in for David DeCastro last year. We have Amin the Dream in the house. Amin the Dream. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. You haven't been posting that much. I was like, where did BEASTwriter go?
Bro, I'm still doing some stuff behind the scenes. We have a lot of, like I said, man, I put my money where my mouth is. We are doing a lot of things here. We're coming out with my game film breakdown. We're working with a huge software company. I can't talk about it too much in detail because there's only me and literally a big time corporation that we're working on the game film breakdown footage of it. So everyone wants to know what your game grade's like. How do you grade? I'm not going to show you my algorithm, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about that. We also launched our swag. So I've been giving away free swag. So I've just been hitting up people saying, you know what, if you guys want swag, it's going to be released on the team store here on YouTube. So all the money, I mean, I dumped literally like $7,000 into the BEASTwriter family. And here we are today. So big things are coming, man. So I'm really excited. I know I'm talking a lot and rambling, but that's what I've been up to. And that's why I've been posting much. But how you been?
Good. The Fred Warner contract. I'm happy they got that deal done before the Colts signed Darius Leonard, man. I mean, like, if the Colts signed Darius Leonard before we signed Fred, I would be scared as hell. Because, I mean, Darius Leonard, if he got $100 million contract, and people are saying that he's going to get a bigger contract, then he's going to get a bigger contract, right? So if he got that bigger contract before Fred signed his contract, then if Fred wants more money than Darius Leonard because he thinks he's better than Fred Warner, and Niners fans, we think he's better than Darius Leonard, right? So if he wanted more money, then we're screwed, right? Because we still we don't have that much cap space to sign Fred Warner to this $110 million, $105 million contract. We don't have the money to do that. So I'm just happy we got that deal done before Darius Leonard signed his contract.
Yeah, and it's old news here in the BEASTwriter family. Like I said, I've been saying it since September of last year that he was in line for a new contract, and people were like, "No, you're just making up news as clickbait." Obviously, Fred Warner's dad follows me. He's like, "No, you're spot on." Like he'll leave comments here, and then you can kind of see how everything's playing out, right? Like aside from that, I said the 2018 draft class is really stacked at the inside linebacker position. I mean, just check my YouTube and Twitter receipts, and you look at guys like Roquan Smith. He's the best off-ball linebacker in my grading system, right?
Yes, and like I actually looked up his stats, and I mean, like he has better stats in most categories than Fred Warner and Bobby Wagner. And I'm like, damn, like I didn't even know that until I saw it.
Yeah, and then do your own research, right? So like try to form. This is the challenge that I want to say. You can get stats anywhere, but then how accurate are those stats? I mean, PFF puts up a lot of stuff, and I don't agree with a lot of PFF, but they are the standard, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be comparing and having this conversation. But I disagree with a lot of PFF stuff. I shouldn't say a lot, but some of PFF stuff. One of the things is Roquan Smith. If you want grades, anyone can say he's the best off-ball linebacker in coverage. Well, I have actual grades. I can break it down play by play. If you want to play, I can say, hey, at this game, he was targeted this many times. He gave up this. Because you have to know what to look for. You can't look at a box score or go off someone else's information. You have to have a mind of your own, and you're young. And I know you have the aptitude to really get it done. And that's why anyone who follows the BEASTwriter family, I try to make it a point. Like, you know what? We all have differing opinions. I don't care if you agree or disagree with me, but formulate your own opinion, right? Don't just follow the narrative. Don't just follow what people say, because everyone has a mind of their own. So think on your own. And again, are you right 100% of the time? I don't know. Do you know what to look for? No, but that's why you have me, because I can kind of bridge the gap, because I have my game grading system and I will show you things that I look for. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, you really don't know unless you actually do the legwork, right? Like people like Jonathan Allen. No one talks about Jonathan Allen. 4 days ago, I wrapped up my game grades on Jonathan Allen. And boom, what happened? He gets a big contract. So yeah, it's just one of those things. And I love that Trey Lance jersey you have on. By the way, I just want to give a shout out to him in the dream. He is actually, aren't you trying to be in the running for the 49ers contest to be the 49ers reporter?
Well, they'll let me know like tomorrow if I get in the second round. They'll like email my parents, but if I don't, then I'm out.
Well, you're going to get in. I'll retweet your stuff. I haven't yet because I was at the gym. I just got back and wanted to hop on the show. But let me know what you want from me. I'll go ahead and retweet it out. And obviously, I know people from the 49ers, not like they can do anything, or can they? But, more eyes is better. More eyes is better. You have a bright future either way. You have a bright future either way.
For you, because, man, I heard about the Aaron Rodgers situation today, and I'm just like, seriously, like, since after the NFC Championship game, there's been this whole drama about, hey, is Aaron Rodgers going to stay? Is Aaron Rodgers going to leave? This whole drama throughout the entire offseason. And right before training camp, he's like, I'm going to return. I'm like, are you joking? Like, legit, last week we had the report that he turned down one of the most expensive contracts that the Packers are going to offer him. And he turned that down. And now you're going to come back and play for them?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I said this on an earlier live stream. Question was asked, in your opinion, do you think Aaron Rodgers is going to play? I said yes. And here we are today. Now, people who are saying, oh, I knew he was going to come back at some point. I mean, I think none of us really knew. I mean, he could have retired for all we know.
We heard about the Broncos also, like that whole Broncos.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, like now that's completely thrown out the window.
Right. Mariah from our faithful Lee says, hope you're well, Ryan. Thank you so much. So what's on your mind? What do you want to discuss when it comes to your San Francisco 49ers? I know we talk about all 32 NFL teams, but what is on your mind right now Is it Trey Lance? You have the jersey on.
Honestly, it is Trey Lance because I want to see how well Trey Lance does in training camp. That's all I'm excited for. You see me repping the jersey. That's pretty much all I'm excited for, to see how Trey Lance performs in training camp. We'll see how well he does against Jimmy Garoppolo. Will he be the starting quarterback week 1, or will it be Jimmy Garoppolo? So it all depends. Training camp,
It's Jimmy
basically.
Garoppolo. It's not a question, bro. It's not a question. Trust me on this. Trust
I
me.
think it's Jimmy Garoppolo because I feel like
No, it is. It is. I'm telling you. It's Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I
It's
think
Jimmy
it's Jimmy
Garoppolo.
Garoppolo also, right? But then like 90 fans are like, why don't you put in Trey Lance? And I'm like, you rush in Trey Lance. You understand that you cannot go back on that decision. I mean, like, you go back on that decision, media will come after you. Media will come after Trey Lance. And I mean,
Exactly
if
what I've been saying. Yep.
you rush that Trey Lance decision, he
Yep.
doesn't win you games. He plays bad. You can't take him out because that makes him lose his confidence. Like, look at what Miami did last year with Tua. I mean, like, you replaced Tua for Mike Fitz, and sometimes you put in Tua, sometimes Tua was just starter. Then you took him out in like the fourth quarter. I mean, like, you think that helps Tua's confidence? No, that basically is making you tell him that, hey, like, you screw up, we can replace you. Like, you're not that valuable to us. If you screw up, we have 2 more draft picks and first rounders next year. We have draft picks for if you don't do well for us, you're replaceable. It's not like we can't replace you if you don't do well for us, and that makes him lose his confidence. Media's talking about Tua, and if you do the same thing to Trey Lance, I mean, that's not good for Trey Lance because the media is gonna come after Trey Lance. Niners fans are gonna come after Trey Lance, especially those Jimmy fans. I mean, those Jimmy fans will be like, "We win with Jimmy Garoppolo. How come you can't win with Trey Lance?" And I mean, like, he's a rookie at the end of the day, he's a rookie. So just don't rush that Trey Lance decision. But I'm excited to see how well he performs in training camp, honestly.
Yeah, you're learning, man. You're learning. Yeah, it's something I've been saying since day one, bro. Like everything that you're echoed, I covered that and I said it. And again, I agree with you. I agree with you 110%. You cannot go back. Once you go and insert Trey Lance, you cannot go back. And at the end of the day, again, you don't want to put a rookie quarterback in a compromised situation, as I always said, right? You can't do that. You can't do that. Ultimately, because at the end of the day, you need a scapegoat. Jimmy Garoppolo is the scapegoat for this season.
Yep.
And I know people don't want to talk about a scapegoat, but hey, he's the scapegoat. I said it since day one, bro. Like, so yeah, that's pretty much it. And yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. What do you think about Eric Armstead this year? There's a lot of talk about him. They can't get rid of him. They can't trade him. Do you think he's going to have a good year this year or bad year this year?
Well, it all depends on what you determine as a good year. Because is he going to have a better year than he had last year? With Nick Bosa coming back, definitely. I think he's going to have over 3 sacks. But it all depends what you call a good year. Is he going to have 10 plus sacks? Is he going to wow me? Is he going to make the Pro Bowl?
Yeah.
That's not likely. But is he going to do better than he did last year? Yes, I think he will. I wouldn't be shocked if he had 5 to 6 sacks. But right now, I don't see him having 10 sacks. I really don't. Unless he balls out like he did in 2019. I just can't see it. And also in that 2019 season, I mean, people say Nick Bosa's coming back. But DeForest Buckner was there. D Ford played some games in 2019. I mean, you take out DeForest Buckner, you're putting all the pressure on Nick Bosa. And I mean,
yep.
Like, Nick Bosa is an amazing player, but you can't expect Eric Armstead to have the same type of season that he had in 2019 because DeForest Buckner's not there anymore. D Ford,
Right.
I don't know about the D Ford situation. Fred Warner said he's healthy, he's looking great. I don't know, man. Like, I don't think Andy Reid would trade away D Ford, who had 13.5 sack season that year, for a second rounder, because a 13.5 season, that's pretty darn good. I don't think Andy Reid would trade him away, and Andy Reid traded him away for a reason, because he just can't stay healthy. Honestly, he really can't. So
Right.
I honestly don't know if Eric Armstead is gonna have. I think he's gonna have a better year, but I don't think he's gonna have this excellent, wowing Pro Bowl caliber year.
Okay. Here's a better question. Do you think he's going to live up to the contract then this year?
No. Because what his contract is worth of $80 million.
85. Yep.
That's what you pay for a premium pass rusher in the league.
Exactly.
You pay that $80 million to a guy like TJ Watt, to a guy like Aaron Donald. You pay Aaron Donald even more than that, right? But you pay a guy $80 million if he's a generational talent. If he makes your whole D-line single-handedly way better. And that's Eric Armstead just doesn't do that. Honestly, Eric Armstead does not do that whatsoever. Last year, Eric Armstead put up 3 sacks. And even his effort, like, I didn't see anything. Like, I didn't see him hustling. I just didn't see that from Eric Armstead last year. And I get that Nick Bosa wasn't there. And Eric Armstead isn't the guy that's going to single-handedly give you those 10 sacks by himself. But when you pay a guy $80 million, you're paying him like he's a premium pass rusher in the league. You're paying him like he's the best in football. He's a top 10 defensive lineman when he's really not. So I just don't see him. I just don't think he's going to live up to the contract of that $80 million. And I mean, you can't even trade Eric Armstead because, like, who's going to want that contract for the production that he gives you? Who's really going to say, I want this guy on my team? Nobody's going to want that contract. He doesn't live up to the contract. Why would you want to take that contract on if you're a GM of a team, if you're the owner of a team? Why would you want that contract? Really, like, the Rams included Jared Goff in the Matthew Stafford trade package because they get rid of his contract. I get they still have to pay for him next year, but that gets rid of his contract. They don't have to pay him in 2022, 2033. They don't have to pay him.
Yeah.
But I don't see the Niners willing up. I don't see the Niners willing to give a D tackle for a D tackle because that's the only way I'll see that happen, right? You give up a same type of price D tackle or a defensive lineman for Eric Armstead, but I don't know what premier pass rush that you're going to get for Eric Armstead.
You can't. You just can't.
So
you can't. There's too much dead money tied to his contract. I mean, you look at guys around the league, right? You know, I cover all 32. So you look at guys like Grady Jarrett, Fletcher Cox. These are guys who actually are consistently double teamed and still create pressure up front, making others better, right? You don't see that with Eric Armstead. He's going to need that complementary role piece or generational talent to go ahead and make him what he is. Now, I'm not saying Eric Armstead is garbage. I'm not saying he's a bum. What I'm saying is he's not going to be able to live up to that contract. Now, with that being said, kind of like Dana Stubblefield, right? He's Dana Stubblefield 2.0. What happened in 1995? What happened in 1995 that year is, or was it 1993? I think it was 1995. But one of those years, Dana Stubblefield racked up 15 sacks, led the NFL in sacks, but Bryant Young was the one coming up with the double teams. And that's why Dana Stubblefield had success. And then he goes on with Washington, playing next to Dan Big Daddy Wilkinson, and he had 1.5 the following season. The huge drop-off in the discrepancy in that number is that the guy who is playing the 3 technique and is not matched up one-on-one more times than not is going to have and win the leverage game because all he has to beat is mano-a-mano. And when you're not the focal point of the defense or the offense side of the football, you're going to see a matchup to where you should at least be getting that, right? And a lot of times you look at the games. I mean, there's game film that I can point out, and you can go back on my Twitter feed where Eric Armstead isn't hustling. He's getting sealed off by tight ends. He's Levine Toilolo when he was with what team was he on? I think he was on the Detroit Lions. He got sealed off. You go back in my tweets. I put it up there, and I think that's why he got upset. But at the end of the day, it's like an NFL coach told me. He's like, or 2 NFL coaches, like, you struck a chord with him. I mean, you're not wrong. They said you're not wrong. And again, what do we know? We're just amateur fanboys that don't know much. But at the end of the day, I think Eric Armstead is not as bad as people make him out to be. I also piggybacking on that, he's not as great as that contract that he's going to ultimately have to live up to.
Is he a scrub? No. But is he worth that contract? No. But that's the one thing that always frustrates me about John Lynch. I mean, 2 things that really irk me about John Lynch is that, like, you just can't hit on your first-round draft picks. The only first-round draft pick that you necessarily hit on was Nick Bosa.
Right.
That's it, right? And Bosa still is injured this year, which is not necessarily John Lynch's fault, but that's the only draft pick you hit on. Solomon Thomas draft pick. I mean, what went into the thought process where your starting quarterbacks are Brian Hoyer and Matt Barkley? Those are your 2 quarterbacks in your quarterback room. And you say, hey, we have a guy in Deshaun Watson. Before we knew about all his allegations, when he won a national championship at Clemson, he was doing spectacular things in college. And you decide, hey, we're going to go after a pass rusher? And I mean, like, seriously? Like, you need a quarterback, and you decide to go after a pass rusher. He's not even on your team anymore. And, like, none of us knew what Mahomes would turn into, but still, Deshaun Watson still would have been there. You could have drafted Deshaun Watson, and you decided to pass up on Deshaun Watson for a pass rusher. And even, like, some of his contracts, like the Eric Armstead contract. So Eric Armstead had 1 good year, and you pay him $80 million. He had 1 good year.
Yeah. $85 million, man. Yeah, $85 million, 5-year contract.
The Jimmy Garoppolo situation. I get that Jimmy Garoppolo balled out of 6 games, but he played 6 games. He played 6 games, and you give him $120+ million contract for 6 games. I mean, Dak Prescott's playing 4 seasons with the Cowboys. and he got a $160 million contract. I mean, he played
Yeah.
4 seasons. Jimmy Garoppolo played 6 games, and instead of franchise tagging him that season, you pay him a $100 million contract. I mean, like, seriously, like, why? Like, what went into the thought process of those things?
What the thought process was, and because I was there, is they were banking on his potential, and they saw what he could do, So that's why they did that. All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on. A guy called Ed says Cam Akers injury and potential Chandler Jones leaving. How will this affect Niners and NFC West championship run? Not much, in my opinion, because the Arizona Cardinals aren't really a threat, in my opinion. I shouldn't say that because they do have obviously DeAndre Hopkins, they have AJ Green, and we don't know what's going on with Larry Fitzgerald. What they also have Rondale Moore, who they drafted in the second round out of Purdue. What's going on? I'm in. Are you there?
No, I just want to say peace. I gotta go.
Oh, all right. See you later, my man. All right. The Ramilia Sports Report says, what's up, BEASTwriter? What's going on, LA Rams fan base? We cover all 32 NFL teams here in the BEASTwriter family. How are you doing? Showing you some love and all about good vibes only here in the BEASTwriter family. David Price says, Cowboys have a playoff contending offense putting up 35.6 points per game with Dak. It's the defense that sucks and let us down. Yeah, the defense is horrible. And if you look at what they did, they traded back with the Philadelphia Eagles, a division rival, moving back from 10 to 12, and still got the best linebacker in the game in Micah Parsons at the college level. So I do like that pick when they switched down from 10 to 12. Ultimately, I would have liked them. I know they don't need defense, but you take the best player available. That would have been crazy if they would have got Devontae Smith. I mean, you got CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Smith, Amari Cooper. Not like they needed it, but they could have went in a number of different directions. I really like that move where they traded back. But in the second round, when they got Kelvin Joseph out of Kentucky, another guy with red flags, he's very talented, but I'm not sure I would have took on that risk. Now, the first 6 picks in the 2021 NFL draft class went on the defense and was invested in the defensive side of the football when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. But again, if you want to watch those grades, you can go ahead and do so in an earlier podcast I'd put it Dallas Cowboys BEASTwriter NFL grades, and it'll be there. People are like, how are you doing this off the top of your head? All right. Trent Payne says Armstead is a premium bum. MILF Hunter said could have had Buckner for $2 million more per year. Yes, something I predicted in my BEASTwriter family podcast, the first episode. Armstead will do better with everyone back, but maybe 5 sacks. I think if everyone's back and healthy, I think Armstead's going to have like 10, 12 sacks. I know that sounds crazy, but I just think so. Melf Hunter says still who won Defensive Player of the Year. He did win Defensive Player of the Year. Brandy Lewis says this is why there needs to be an offensive, an outside linebacker on the 49ers that can pick up where to rush against mostly the interior of opposing offenses. This really helps the D line. Yes, it does. David Bryce says, I'm not going to lie, though. The year before the Niners had a Chiefs Super Bowl game, I said Jimmy G was going to lead the 49ers to a Super Bowl, and I was correct. All right, here we go. Not your average sport kid. Amin, my boy, let's go. Trent Payne says, thought process is they don't know what they're doing. All right. Robert Watson says, Beast, missed you, broski. Sup, BEASTwriter family. What's going on, Robert Watson? How are you doing? And thank you for tuning in. R-Dub, always good hearing from you. All right. So let's see what else we have going on here. And we will get going. Comments. David Bryce says, I'm a Kentucky fan, and Kelvin Joseph isn't really the ideal cornerback. He got crapped on by many low-talented wide receivers. And here you go. See? And this is why I cover all 32 NFL teams. Here we have Davin Bryce, a Dallas Cowboys fan, or a Kentucky fan, excuse me. And he's echoing the same thing that I said. And I'm not even a Kentucky fan, but I have to do my due diligence in my scouting analysis, pre-draft analysis. And he's saying the same thing. I didn't like that pick of Kelvin Joseph. I just didn't. I mean, you look at what they had and what the team needs were. Again, let's look at what they had, right? Let's look at what let me pull up where they're at. And again, if you want to see what I had to say on that 2021 NFL draft class when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys and the grade that I gave them, you can go ahead and click on that. Just type in Dallas Cowboys BEASTwriter. It's in my playlist, my YouTube playlist, I should say. Just click on the YouTube playlist and you will see everything I had to say about that. But with that being said, I mean, they got Kelvin Joseph, right? So let me just look it up right now because obviously number 44 overall in the second round, right? Drafted out of Kentucky in the SEC, right? Well, why not go after Asante Samuel Jr.? He was a better sound play, and the LA Chargers get him just a few picks later. So he would have been a nice play. I thought he was a better fit. And they should have rolled that way. He's the best nickelback in this entire draft class. Why not go after and get him? Because at the end of the day, although Kelvin Joseph measurables, and that's something that the Dallas Cowboys absolutely love, are there, I just like Asante Samuel Jr. I think he was a better fit and a sound player who is more fundamentally sound at the line of scrimmage. So if you're going to go boundary cornerback or even slot cornerback, I would have went after those guys. Asante Samuel over Kelvin Joseph. Brandy Lewis says, toughest game the 49ers face this year. That's a good question. Let me look at their schedule right now. We already got 2021. You guys want to know my predictions? I do not release that until preseason is over because injuries happen, and that's going to shake up my rankings. So with that being said, let's look at what's going on here. Toughest game of the year. Let's see here. Let me just look at this. All right. So, I mean, obviously the Seahawks would be one. That's going to be a tough game for them. But I'm going to give you a wild card game, even a trap game, so to speak, right? So let me just see if I see one. The Bears might be a trap game on October 31st. No, that's right now. I don't know what's going on. Obviously, I told you I'm not going to release my plus minus on the season until preseason is over, but that could be a possible game that 49ers probably will be double-digit favorites heading into that game, and it'll be snowing, something like that, and the weather will play a condition as how the game plans are being formulated. So that could be a game. I think the Bengals, another one to end the season, right? The Bengals, that could be a game too, where they're on the road against the Bengals. I mean, you got Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase there, and Joe Mixon is in the mix. Like how I said that, Joe Mixon is in the mix. They also got who they got? Trey Hendrickson. They got him from the New Orleans Saints, right? So they got a pass rusher there. But Jesse Bates on the back end, who I just mentioned is a first-team All-Pro in my grading system. So there's some pieces there. That could be also a trap game. Tennessee Titans going to be a tough game too. Their schedule to end the year is tough. I mean, their last 3 games is Bengals. Don't sleep on the Bengals, especially at the end of the year. Bengals, the Titans, I mean, those 2 games are both on the road, right? So I think they're going to lose that game to the Titans. The 49ers-Titans matchup on December 23rd, just one day before Christmas Eve. I think that's an L. I think that and then the last game, they have the last 3 games on the road. Or excuse me, no, it's not. I take that back. I'm looking at it sideways. Sorry. Looking at it sideways. That's weird how the 49ers do this. So they play the Bengals on December 12th. That might be a tough game. Then 2 weeks later, they go on the road and they play the Tennessee Titans on December 23rd. That can be a good game that the Niners might struggle because they have Derrick Henry there. They also have Taylor Lewan there. There's a lot of guys. Again, we had ESPN Titans reporter Teron Davenport, TD, my man. He was on here talking about those guys on the offensive line. I'm not going to mention the guy who he thinks is the best offensive line player on that team, who he thinks is a Pro Bowl player. You guys can see that podcast. Just search Teron Davenport on my BEASTwriter family channel, and you will see that and everything he had to say when he broke down the Julio Jones to the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, they also have AJ Brown there, and they have a few pieces there. A tight end who he calls a sure-handed tight end, so that can be a good game there. So that's crazy. All right. Kyle Shelting says, I need Adrian Peterson. What do you think? I would love to have Adrian Peterson on the 49ers. That would be dope, but I don't think that's going to happen. Adrian Peterson would be awesome, though, to have him play on the Niners. He can play in any scheme. Alex Faulkner says, does Chandler Jones play for the Cardinals this year? No, he ultimately gets traded. I don't think he's going to play for the Arizona Cardinals. I think he's going to get shipped out for a late-round pick. Possibly, because he's in the last year of his contract. So any team that's picking up his contract will have to kind of agree on a contract extension. That's something that you never want to get a player in return when giving up draft capital, is getting a player in the last year of his contract. And so when you do that, you're going to want to leverage that how you see fit. So with that being said, I think Chandler Jones is ultimately going to be devalued in the speak because he is coming off injury and he is in the last year of his contract. So anytime you take on a player like that, you're getting him on a 1-year rental, unless they ink him to a long-term deal. So I don't think he's going to end up playing with the Arizona Cardinals. Melv Hunter says Thursday night versus Tennessee on the road. Yeah, that's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a tough game. John Zach says Jimmy goes back to Chicago and doesn't start. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. All right. I think that's going to wrap up this podcast episode here on the YouTube channel in the BWF. I hope you guys liked what I had to say. If you did, please hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen as you stay up to date on all things Beasts in real time. Also, hit the like button. Do me a solid. You guys were watching this throughout the duration of the podcast. And I know not everyone can send me super chats or super stickers, but a like is free, a comment is free, and that's definitely going to help me out. And I love engaging with you guys on this platform. This is why I do it. So the more likes I get, the more comments I get, it makes this all worthwhile. So please go ahead and do so. If you have not done that already, is hit the like button and engage with me here on the BEASTwriter family. All right. Well, that'll be it for today. Again, I hope you guys liked what I had to say, and mahalo for all the love and support on this Mahalo Monday. And that'll be it for this podcast. Thank you so much, MILF Hunter. I appreciate the love and support. He says, what supplements do you take for BCAA? I am a sponsored EvoGen athlete. So on my channel, you will see my link to the EvoGen nutrition website, and that's what I take. I take AminoJect. That's what I take. And I am going for my IFBB Pro card. So thank you so much, and mahalo for the love. All right, that's it. Like I said, stay tuned for another episode on the BEASTwriter family channel as we kick off training camp tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you so much. Have a good night. BEASTwriter out.